Let her rip there, Chip.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Washington Elementary School District Governing Board for November 19th, 2020. Ms. Tucker, if you could do roll call, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Governing Board members present, Governing Board President, Ms. T. Lambert, Governing Board Vice President, Mr. Bill Adams, Governing Board members, Mr. Aaron Yannicki, Mr. Larry Herrera, and Ms. Nikki Whaley.
Thank you. We'll move on to a moment of silence and meditation. Once again, I just please ask everyone to keep in their thoughts, prayers in their hearts, just everyone that's going through struggle through these times of the pandemic increasing and just the environment right now. Everything is so unsettled. Thank you. Dr. Stanton, would you do the lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yes, Ms. Lambert. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If I could have a motion to adopt the November 19th, 2020 regular meeting agenda.
So moved.
Okay, I'll take Mr. Herrera as making the motion and Mr. Yannicki as a second.
I'll make the second, yes.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Mr. Adams, do we have you?
Said aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're so
Yeah.
soft. Okay. Thank you. The motion passes.
Thank you.
If we could have a motion to approve October 22nd, 2020 regular and executive session minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Herrera. Is there a second?
I'll second Mrs. Lambert.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Yannicki. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And it passes. Thank you. Current events and acknowledgements. I'd like to go ahead and start off, and I just would like to congratulate Ms. Jenny Abbott Bayardi and Ms. Lindsay Peterson and our own Ms. Nikki Whaley that won the board meeting that will governing board positions, and will be starting in January. Congratulations to you all. I'd also like to, I did have an opportunity this week of being part of an NSBA sponsored roundtable with others, board members and superintendents and CFOs, and to talk about the crisis, that financial impact that COVID is having and the struggles. It was very interesting and very enlightening to hear what folks are going through across the nation. I appreciated being asked to be part of that roundtable. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Any other board members?
I do.
Yes, Mr. Herrera.
I just wanted to mention that I am wearing purple today for World Pancreatic Cancer Day today. It runs in my family, so today is a special day, and wanted to mention that for any survivors out there that today purple is to recognize you and all your families, that hopefully someday there will be a cure. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mrs. Lambert, I would like to.
Yes, Mr. Yannicki.
I want to thank them for, I want to congratulate Mrs. Whaley for a good campaign, and Jenny Abbott Bayardi and Lindsay Peterson for a great campaign, a positive campaign, and I support them, and I want success next year. And I'll be saying more when I can, but it's really important to me to acknowledge those victories and the importance to the district that we have continuity through the duration of this year and beyond. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Mr. Adams?
Thank you. Had an opportunity yesterday to participate in ASBO's webinar. Just fascinating, the amount of information they offered. And I just want to acknowledge what a great job ASBO did. Chuck Essex and everybody else and part of that team. I too want to express my gratitude on the 5 candidates that ran. You all represented us well. Every one of you, I was proud to see the quality, the caliber of individuals. While I'm sorry to see Ms. Lambert and Mr. Yannicki exit, I am very, very proud of the 3 other individuals that are going to. Nikki, obviously, you're part of our family, and Lindsay and Jenny, I'm looking forward to them coming on too. But you all did a beautiful job. It was you made us proud, and the quality of the race that you all participated in was very, very professional, and thank you all. So thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Ms. Whaley?
Yes, thank you. Thank you everyone for your support, and I also thank my fellow board members for their campaigns and for their leadership and their knowledge and contributions over the years. I really do appreciate that, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to work with both of you. I know we had a lot of celebrations. I don't want to take Dr. Stanton's thunder, but I just am really proud of our staff that are continuing to do the work and get recognized for that, from our social work team to our food services team, to teachers and schools being recognized. There's a lot of good things happening, and even during these times of the pandemic. So I just wanted to acknowledge all of our staff who are working tirelessly to do that. And then I also want to thank all of our students and parents who have been working and adjusting with us. So that's all. Thank you so much. And I look forward to serving.
Thank you. Dr. Stanton?
Thank you, Ms. Lambert. Just a couple items. It is great, Ms. Whaley, to recognize staff. You're right. Cronkite News did a beautiful article on our social workers. Also, we did celebrate the actual virtual blue ribbon since our last board meeting for Lookout Mountain. Congratulations to Trish and the whole community, staff, students, parents, everyone out there. It's a national award. Under 400 school districts across the nation received that award. So it's an incredible honor for a lot of great hard work that Lookout Mountain has done for many years. So again, kudos to Trish and the team. I got a chance to be a part of an ABEC presentation, the Arizona Business Education Coalition, talking about collaboration and the future of Arizona. And I will say it was the first time in a long time that I'd heard multiple people, whether they were business, college, community members, talk about poverty. And it was nice to hear. For those of us, everybody knows we have about 93% free and reduced lunch in this district. It was nice to hear that people think we need to solve the issues of folks where they're at, and then we can help them. And then none of these are simple solutions. These will take years and time, but it was great to hear at least people talk about that. We had a chance to meet with Judy Schweibert, myself, Justin, and Kathy to introduce ourselves. We will be scheduling introductory planning meetings with Jenny and Lindsay, so we'll be doing the same there. Also had a great session at IBN today. We have a lot of new faces, but wonderful staff. I want to thank IBN and the whole team today that was a part of it. Justin will be getting the communique out soon to the board, but again, just a good beginning. We definitely shared the board interests, as we always do. So again, thank you, Ms. Lambert, for the opportunity.
Thank you. Ms. Tucker, do we have any public participation?
Yes, President Lambert, we do have several public participation. I will begin by reading them. The first one we have is from Mr. Lance Brace. Mr. Brace says, I have reviewed the results of the recent survey held.
Shannon, can you speak up a little bit? Can you speak up a little bit? I'm having a hard time hearing.
Yeah. Is this better?
You're kind of muffled.
Try this. Is this better?
Perfect.
Okay. Again, this is from Mr. Lance Grace. It says, I have reviewed the results of the recent survey held for WESD, and I am quite pleased. The results of the survey will create significant change for WESD and the governing board. Speaking to President Lambert specifically, I hope that the incoming change is not too difficult for you. To the rest of the board, I hope you are able to accurately project the next survey and properly plan for the inevitable outcome. The next one is from Miss Vanessa Ness. She said that I feel like us parents that we are wanting our kids kept in school should have that option like we do now with the hybrid. The families that don't can continue to do virtual. The wave of this virus will, and I'm sure, continue to go up and down. So pulling our kids up and putting them back in doesn't make sense. The next one is from Miss Lori Bays, and she says this is regarding return to virtual learning. The district has repeatedly said that they would follow the state and county health data and benchmarks as it relates to opening and closing schools. Now the district is jumping ahead of closing schools without the benchmarks being met. The Maricopa County website clearly states that if all 3 benchmarks are in the red category, they recommend virtual with on-site support. They further read that if one benchmark are in the red category for 2 weeks, consult with public health about preparing for virtual with on-site support. It does not say that schools should move to all virtual at that point. At this point, which was 11/16, we have only had 1 week with 1 benchmark in red. Granted, we may have 2 weeks by the time the board meeting is held, but we have not had all 3 benchmarks in the red category as stated in the threshold for full-time virtual learning. Further, I received an email from Lookout Mountain today on Monday, 11/16, stating that the decision has already been made to return to full-time virtual learning on 11/23. So what is the point of using the benchmarks if we're not going to follow them? There are 25 active cases, COVID cases district-wide, according to the dashboard. In the district as large as WSD, this is not a high percentage. Even Dr. Chris from the Arizona Department of Health has said that schools should find ways to keep the same amount of in-person learning in place as it is crucial to students' well-being. With youth depression and suicide rising, we need to think more about the physical impact of the virus. We need to think about the overall well-being of our kids and find a balance. I am seeing the emotional toll this has taken on my family, and I firmly believe that returning to full-time virtual learning before the benchmarks indicate we should do so is detrimental. I would be happy to discuss further with any of the board members. Thank you. The next one we have is from Vanessa Ness regarding keeping the schools open. I would like us, I'm sorry, I read that one, I apologize. The next one is from Amber Pope regarding keeping schools open. I am a teacher at Alta Vista Elementary School, and I would like to express concern I have with transitioning back to online. I know that we are looking at the metrics, and I acknowledge that we are in red in 2 areas which recommend that students stay online. However, I'm gravely concerned with the well-being of our students. I know that students are struggling so much online, and they are so far behind in not only academics, but also social and emotional skills and needs. Our children depend on coming to school to have a safe place to learn, and now this is being taken away from them. Parents and teachers had a choice to make whether or not they wanted to come to school already for hybrid learning. Why do we not get a say in closing schools? Yes, the metrics are bad, but the numbers in schools are not. Why can't we go on a school-by-school basis? If there is an outbreak at a school or in a class, close that specific school or class. We are taking so much learning from our students. Our kids are scared, depressed, and failing so far behind, and this consistent roller coaster of closing schools is doing more harm than good. I have spoken with many colleagues, and they agree with me on this matter. What if a survey was sent out? I thank WSD for all that they do for your students and staff, and I thank you for the opportunity to share my concerns. The next comment is from Denise Gutierrez Kemp regarding developmental preschool. I want to share my thoughts on the closing of school. I understand why you're closing, but the preschool has less students and my child does not do online learning well. He will not sit in front of a computer. Since my child has been attending school with Miss Clancy, I have seen a huge difference in his learning. My child has autism and is nonverbal. The difference I have seen in him since he has started school is huge. He has made progress in his learning, and by closing the school, this is going to set him back. As his voice, I beg you to make the exception for these students who need these teachers. My child will not sit and do online learning, and you are making a decision based on normal kids' needs. My child needs in-person learning, and the class size is low. You are hurting my child's education by online learning, as he is not able to do this type of learning. I am pleading with you to make some sort of exception for this type of learning. With everything else going on, I need the support of the wonderful teachers he has. Please consider an exception for these kids that need in-person learning and consistency in order to learn. I cried when Miss Clancy this morning, as my child is being hurt or punished in the long run. I am begging you to make some sort of exception for these small groups of kids that need in-person learning. My child needs Miss Clancy. Thank you. The next one is from Mr. Jason Odell. I appreciate you taking the time to read this. I will do my best to focus on the substance of my concern without writing a novel. The kids are my main focus aside from everything else, just the kids. The countless studies show that education and interaction of children means so much during these crucial years of development. The parents that have chosen to keep their kids home due to personal reasons or to safety is 100% understandable and already out of this current equation. We are now discussing the parents who are wanting their kids in person. Yes, we understand the risk and feel that the reward of kids being in the in-person setting is much higher, and we are willing to take that risk. Remember, these are our children, and as a parent, feel that we should have the overall ability to determine what is best for them. We are not asking you to take your children to school if you deem it unsafe. That would be outlandish, in my opinion. However, I feel that other people making the same decision on behalf of my kids is just as crazy, if not worse. Why does a group of 5 people feel that they have overall power greater than the people that feed, house, and look after the welfare of the kids daily? Why does this board feel it knows what's best for my children and the children of the other parents that want their kids in school? It's definitely not science or numbers. You can clearly see through our Kids Space program that we can operate daily in person without any overwhelming tragedy. Yes, I personally have spoken to the coordinator and many other participants that have been attending 5 days a week for months, and nothing out of the normal. Why must you, the board, go against the wishes of the parents and state leaders? This makes no sense. We are the same parents that were behind you during Red for Ed and salary disputes. I just ask that you, for once, really ask yourself these questions and get behind the kids and the parents that supported you. Based on the decisions made, my wife and I have decided that our 4 children will relocate if our leaders at the board wish to. Based on the decisions made, my wife and I decided that our 4 children will relocate if our leaders at the board wish to think they know what's best for our children than we do. Thank you for your time. That is the last one. Thank you, President Lambert.
All right, thank you. Dr. Stanton, I would ask that if your office would get back and respond to these folks that have reached out. I do want them to know that we have gotten emails and we have heard them, and we take their input very seriously. Thank you. Moving on to the approval of the consent agenda. Is there anything that a board member would like to pull? Hearing none, if I could have a motion to approve consent agenda A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H.
So moved, Ms. Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Herrera. Is there a second?
I'll second, Ms. Lambert.
Thank you, Ms. Whaley. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? And it passes. I would like to just take a moment and thank our folks for their public gifts and donations in support of our students. The Arizona Diamondbacks Foundation, Arizona Educational Foundation, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona, Jana Kisner, Kroger Fries, Main Event, Moon Mountain Women's Club, Rack Room Shoes, and Walmart. Thank you for all you do for our students. So saying that, we are down to the COVID report. Dr. Stanton.
Madam President, members of the board, members of the audience, as we've been doing now for over 8 months, we'll be giving an update of the COVID situation related to each of our leadership departments. So, Dr. Bailey, if you would please start out in regards to the schools and operations.
Thank you, President Lambert, members of the board, and viewing audience. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to talk about the operations of the school. My 4 main topics will be planning for hybrid to virtual, the support services of on-site support services, kid space, and then after school academy. Last week on Thursday, when we received our first red benchmark, on Friday we actually announced to the staff, including the administrators, and as well as parents, that there was a possibility of moving from hybrid to virtual, depending on the metrics this week, this Thursday, actually. So at that point, schools started to plan to move from hybrid to that virtual type of learning model. And there were 2 major guidelines that we asked these schools to actually plan for. First of all, that the hybrid students would keep their current teacher. That would be a major type of guideline. And second, that there would be instruction for 5 days a week by that teacher. So, and thus, that's what they've been planning for this week, and the possibility that we would be going virtual. At the same time, I'd like to state that we've had 600 students that have been in on-site support. On-site support, again, is available in all 32 of our schools, and that will continue even next week and beyond. And in fact, we will actually be able to handle more than the number of students that we've had. Again, they will have supervisors that will be there to supervise. They will be able to get online with the classes that they have been set up with. So we will continue with the same CDC guidelines, with the masks, with the frequent hand washing, and with the 6-foot distance. Again, that will continue in all 32 of our schools. Another support service that we've had has been Kid Space. We've had over 500 students in Kid Space. We will have Kid Space beginning next week in 13 of our locations. And in 5 of those locations, we're having something what's called Kid Space Learning Camp. And that will be from 7 to 3:15. And then there will be aftercare in Kid Space. This will be at no cost to students as far as the Kid Space Learning Camp. That is actually through a DES grant that we actually received. So that will be Kid Space. Then another support services that we've had this semester, and that will continue, is our After School Academy. We've had over 1,640 students participate in online classes this last semester, with 110 certified teachers actually working with them. In addition, we started a new program. 725 WESD students are in a program called Unplugged Adventureland. And that's a completely self-paced projects that are STEM-based and that get families involved. So that will also continue on. A lot of these STEM classes are through some of the Arizona Science Center and Gen Tech collaborating with us. So those are, that's a little bit moving from hybrid to virtual, as well as the support services that we have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Lambert, I'm assuming the same pattern that we've done in the past?
Yes, we'll go ahead and have all the departments report out, and then we'll have give board members an opportunity to ask questions or make comments, and we'll just do it like we've done before that was successful, ask 3 questions at a time, and then we'll continue to rotate as all board members have an opportunity to speak.
Madam President, members of the board, members of the audience, Justin Wing will address human resources and it's what's being impacted by COVID. Justin.
Good evening, governing board, Dr. Stanton, audience. Human resources, since the last board meeting, has been handling staff positive COVID cases and exposures. We've updated our safety and health protocols based on some health official updates. For example, they redefined what close contact means. We've had to hire a few virtual teachers as the list of parents changing from hybrid to virtual has significantly increased, and I'll share that data in a moment. And we've been accommodating those families who are wanting to change back to virtual. I do have some data points I would like to share with you. Since the pandemic, we've had 95 staff members test positive for COVID. Out of those 95, more than half of them, that's 55 of them, have been positive since we returned on October 19th. Since that same date, we've had 25 positive student cases. Maricopa County Department of Public Health has declared 2 of our schools as an outbreak since we've reopened. When the pandemic started, federal government extended the Family and Medical Leave Act by incorporating what's called the Family First Coronavirus Response Act. That provides paid and unpaid leave to employees specific to COVID. We've had 340 staff members on this leave with an average work days absent over 11, which is accounted for about 3,800 days of missed due to COVID. We've had 17 quarantine cases. This is in addition to the outbreak, 7 of which was for entire classrooms. As far as staffing impact, we've had 54 classified support staff separate employment, with the primary reason being COVID. For teachers, we've had 12 teachers resign or retired specific to COVID as a reason. We've had 7 teachers take a full year leave of absence. Even though we're hoping to retain them the following school year, it still puts a hole as far as a staffing need this school year. Other things I wanted to share with you since we've reopened on October 19th, our substitute coverage filling in for absences, as I kind of already alluded to, has decreased significantly since last year. Since October 19th, we have a fill rate of about 68%. Last year in that same time frame, middle of October to middle of November was 84%. So we dropped 16%. The last 2 weeks, as metrics have increased, our substitute coverage fill rate has decreased. It's at 57%, where the same 2 weeks last year was at 82%. We've had some staffing struggles. I've alluded to many of them already, some of which we called for increasing what's already large class sizes. We've had to add teachers. Unfortunately, we're in Arizona and there's a severe teacher shortage, so they're not just in our back pockets. We've been switching teachers' roles around, whether it's position titles or to different schools. And within the last few weeks, about 1,600 of our families changed from hybrid to virtual, and it's increasing considerably over the past few days. I just wanted to share with you that that's an impact of over 50 teachers. So if it were to continue, for example, we would have a lot more students changing teachers again, teachers changing schools, grade levels as a result. Thank you for now.
Ms. Lambert, members of the board, members of the audience, Lori Mora will talk about COVID-19 update related to academic services. Lori?
Thank you, President Lambert, governing board members, and community members. As we've been progressing through this quarter, our students have been engaged in instruction focused on our hybrid online instruction with their district designed lessons. And so they've been getting consistent work through those. We have started the process of assessing our students to really get some benchmark information, really focused on determining the individual student progress and to really guide support that we moving forward can offer to our students, and really making sure that we have a good idea of what interventions and additional work they will need to bring them up to speed to where we're at. Also, as we start to look at transitioning back to online learning, we will continue to use our district developed lessons. Once again, that will offer consistency. They will be focused on our essential standards, and we'll be focusing on those skills that our students need. Special area classes will be offered to the fullest extent possible on our campuses, live interaction with the teachers, and so that the students can have interaction and work with the special area content as well. We are going to be looking at the intervention that's been happening in both our hybrid and online options right now, utilizing small group instruction, once again really looking at the support that our students need and focus once again on those essential skills that we've been working with them on. EL for our English language learners, special education gifted services will continue to be provided to those students who qualify, and once again that will be happening with the teachers, interacting with them live and in interactive sessions with those teachers. Once again, we will be continuing to develop lessons into third quarter for our teachers. We have found that this has been very effective, and so we have teams of teachers that once again are coming together and really focusing on getting those lessons prepared in advance so that we will be ready for the third quarter as well. We do want to remind our families and just thank them for their attendance in classes. We know this has been challenging and difficult, but once again, it's so important that our students are present and learning with their teachers, and so we will be looking to find ways in which we can ensure that our families are online with us, working collaboratively with our teachers, and participating on a daily basis. And so once again, we do thank you for your help with that, and we look forward to continuing the work that we have been doing with our students for this quarter. Thank you.
Madam President, members of the board, members of the audience, as you heard earlier, Ms. Thompson sends her apologies. She's dealing with a family situation. So briefly, with the change to online instruction, grab and go, it will be expanding to all 28 locations. They'll be looking at the times closely. Right now it'll be daily, although we'll be watching it closely as we learned in the fourth quarter last year. Also, we wanted you to know, and I know Howard Kropp is here, is that our PP&E is being consistently delivered to our campuses. As Kathy has mentioned in the past, we're kind of using a just-in-time system so that one school doesn't have it all. We get to kind of distribute across all 32 schools along the way. And then finally, for my report, one, want to thank the board for listening to all our constituents, our staff, and others that have contacted, and I believe the constituents have been responded to. I also want to thank the leadership team for listening to all of our constituents and responding to them as well. I know that the board and my leadership team take that very, very seriously, and we do listen to every single constituent, and we thank you for your input along the way. This has been a very difficult decision, as we know any decision we make, and as you've heard in public participation, impacts our families, our students, and our staff. We have been adhering to the benchmarks of the county, and if you would go ahead, Ms. Tucker, and put up our usual at this point. We've continued to take guidance from our county health officials, governor, public instruction, and state folks. Shannon? So if you go to the first slide, please. There we go. Thank you, Shannon. This is a familiar slide to many, but this is the community spread levels, what we've been working with from the Arizona Department of Health Services and the Maricopa County. Everybody remembers the time when we were looking closely at green. Obviously, we've been working on a hybrid model The virtual is when students will be distance learning with on-site support services along the way. And we're going to be talking, oh, and a reminder at the bottom that there is a mask mandate. In fact, ADHS just did a updated reminder of the mask mandates and the hygiene practices that have to be done at schools. Next slide, Ms. Tucker. So last week, if you remember, in our parental update, we mentioned that there may be a need to go virtual, so that we wanted our families to prepare, because as a district, we had reached our first red. If you look at the slide, or part of the right side of the slide, our prior week showed that we were at 114 cases per 100,000, and our percent positive was at 9.22. We have seen a dramatic jump, not only as a district, but also in each of our schools. You'll see this week that our percent positivity has now gone to 11.34, and our cases per 100,000 is now at 160 per 100,000. And the recommended learning scenario is prepare for virtual with on-site support. We did mention that last week, to prepare for virtual with on-site support, because we have now reached the substantial level. I remember Ms. Whaley asking a few board meetings ago about the discussion of one red indicator for 2 weeks. We have reached that. In fact, now we have 2 red indicators. We have had a substantial increase this week across all of our schools. Every one of our schools now has 1 red indicator, and many of them have 2. Ocotillo being the most, the Ocotillo area, I should say, being the most increased to 322 cases and 19.42% in that region. The Maricopa County Health Department is extremely concerned about the upcoming Thanksgiving and winter break time, because people will get together and unfortunately they may not follow all the practices being recommended at the state and local levels. I've stated here before, we are in education, but you do have to look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The first one is physiological, food, clothing, and shelter. The second is safety, and people need to feel safe. So during the online learning time for our families, we will continue the grab and go. Actually, it's still being allowed, and I know Melissa helped work with the federal government. We are going to be having students under the age of 18 will still be able to receive food at our campuses. Our WC social workers will still be available for our staff and students to work with them for their social emotional needs, because we know that this is a very traumatic time for children and families. WC will provide, as you heard Dr. Bailey say, on-campus support still per the governor's executive order along the way. As you heard what's also mentioned, students will remain with their current teachers. Students will have their teachers for 5 days a week, like we had been doing along the way. And as Lori talked about, the need for special area teachers to extend as possible. Due to the increasing cases and positivity and the letter that went home to families today, I did mention that we do believe that we will be in online, most likely remaining online through winter break and into the beginning of second semester. Again, Maricopa County, if you didn't get a chance today and go online, the county is extremely red with a few pockets of yellow along the way. In fact, the third indicator, the COVID-like illness, if you look in front of you, did switch from green to yellow. And that is a county-wide indicator along the way. I do want to thank the board again, because this is, we know, extremely difficult on our families, our students, our staff, you, all of us along the way. My team especially would like to thank the board for sharing their interests and their support in this situation. We did send a letter home with the children today. Pam Horton, our CAPE director, did send a communication and out dial and an email out this evening in regards to this as well. And with that, I will conclude our team's presentation and take on any questions.
Okay, I have a message from Ms. Whaley. She would like to ask a few questions.
Thank you, President Lambert. I think one of the questions that I've seen a lot on different social media and message boards and things like that are, you know, why the on-site? Like, if we safely have on-site and we can safely have kid space, why are we closing the schools? And my understanding is that we have the on-site available because we're required by executive order to do so. So we don't have a say over that. The governor has said that regardless of what model we use, we must have on-site available. Is that correct?
Madam President, members of the board, Ms. Whaley, absolutely. Executive Order 2020-51 does require on-site support, no matter what mode of teaching you're in, or learning, excuse me.
So we are providing that because we're required to do so, and we also have the kids space available for those that need a safe place to go or can't access online at their own homes. But it's not like we're just deciding it's safe for here and safe for here. We are not in control of one of those things.
Yes.
Okay. And then the other question that I had was, I know that we have the dashboard on the website now, and my understanding is we're going to be updating that because it's kind of misleading. Currently, there's only 20-something cases, but that's not a cumulative number. That's not how many ongoing cases. And I think Mr. Wing had said that 55 of those people have been positive and are positive, and it's been since October. So people still dealing with this disease even past 14 days. Still have quite a few sick staff and teachers out there, and I think I saw 25 positive students. So this thing has definitely grown. And with the number of kids, 1,600 just in this last week or so since we went to hybrid that went back to virtual. Can Mr. Wing talk a little bit about, I think he kind of alluded to it, but we're now in a situation where we don't really have enough to do both necessarily. Like, we're going to have to start making some decisions. If he could just clarify that a little bit, that would be helpful.
If I could, and then I'll turn it over to Justin. Ms. Whaley, yes, we're going to add the cumulative to the total on the dashboard, as well as the active cases. So we will be doing that as well. So Justin, can you answer Ms. Whaley's question, please?
If I understand the question correctly, with the large quantity of parents wanting to go virtual over the past few weeks, if we weren't making the decision, if we were in a position where we need to go virtual next week altogether, we would be making significant staffing changes, which could lead to students having to change to another teacher, teachers going from hybrid to virtual, possibly going to different schools. We would have to vet that information to see. Not every school has equal distribution of those changing minds and all that kind of stuff. So it would make an impact, and more so as we can, if we were to continue with our current model. It just seems like there's a correlation with the metrics going up with families' minds being changed, which also means that staffing changes could or would go up as well.
So if I understand that correctly, if we will have less shuffling and people can keep their teachers going to virtual now than trying to keep two models running.
In essence, yes. Going virtual as a result of our current metrics, as Dr. Stanton shared, will allow for students to keep and retain their current teacher. Those students would go virtual from hybrid to virtual. The teacher would go from hybrid to virtual, and there will be some consistency there, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Lambert.
Thank you.
I'll yield to whoever else. I'm sure I have more, but I'll yield.
Ms. Lambert?
Thank you. Is there any other questions?
Ms. Lambert?
Yes, Mr. Adams.
Thank you. I want to start off by saying thank you to our administration and everybody for the amount of hours and hard work that is being invested into this project. These decisions are not made lightly. Dr. Stanton, you've been kind enough to have conversations with me, and my first question is going to be, maybe you can give us your thoughts on why can't we, and I know you've touched on it, but why can't we keep one school open? Like, if there's a hot spot over at Cactus Ran and at Washington there's not, why can we not keep one school open versus another school? Just your thoughts on it, if you would, sir. And then I have another question after that.
Mr. Adams, members of the board, members of the audience, a couple things with that. The current metrics show, Mr. Adams, that every school has a red indicator now, and many have two. So whether it's Cactus Run or any school in particular, all of them now have the red indicator that we've been talking about. Second, I wish it were so simple, but there are some of our schools, for example, that have 2 zip codes or 2 regions that they work with, and one of them might be red and the other one might be dark yellow. And so, we're not dividing schools by, street or things like that. So then some of it also is, if you think about even our middle schools, they receive students from, say, 5 regional areas. So it is not as simple, in the sense of just one. Like I said, the red indicators, Mr. Adams, have gone up dramatically in every one of our schools regions this week. And if you look around on the map, it's happened in everybody surrounding us as well. So that is the reason what we're dealing with now. But that, yeah, again, that's kind of it too. We've got middle schools that receive multiple schools. We've got schools with multiple zip codes that go into them. So that is part of the reason why that is the decision.
So do you know what the status is of Glendale Union?
Glendale Union is going all virtual beginning tomorrow.
Okay, so we feed into them, and that's going to affect families also.
Mr. Adams, all I can say is, many times we deal with the issue of the older siblings are the people that are watching over their younger siblings. So it's a dynamic that we deal with, and we communicate with Glendale Union as well on that issue.
All right, thank you. The conversation we had recently about, and I encourage who's ever, all that listen or should see a recording of this to go to, it's Maricopa County Department of Health, correct?
Correct.
And take a look at the zip codes, because I was absolutely floored at the percent at what those numbers look like, even in my own zip code. It was actually frightening. And thank you for that, and thank you for those conversations. I wanted to touch on the emails we receive, and I know that President Lambert's mentioned it, and Dr. Stanton, you've talked about it. I just want to say from a personal perspective, and I know that my fellow board members are doing the same, it's customary for our board president to respond on our behalf, and then we'll acknowledge most of the time. But I just want to assure those, again, that are listening, that we take every one of those seriously. And as a matter of fact, some great ideas come from them. The question I just asked Dr. Stanton came from one of the emails that we had received. And sometimes those, and I can assure the community that anything that comes before us is forwarded on to our administrator, Dr. Stanton, for him and his team to respond. And I'm very proud of the fact that they do address every single one of those. And we thank you for taking the time to do that. But we do read every one of those emails, and we thank everybody for writing. We're parents too. This affects us also. The decisions being made today are very, very difficult for all of us. And I go back to saying thank you to Dr. Stanton and his team again for the amount of hours invested, and for taking us in the direction that you must take us. And I, for one, trust you all. So, and that's all I have right now. Again, thank you, everybody. You're doing a great job. Madam President, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Mr. Yannicki, do you have any questions?
Yes. Well, I just had a statement. I've been reading the emails, and I take them to heart. And I think something got around about a selfish comment, okay, in one of the emails. I don't remember who it was from, but I want to make the point that there's nothing selfish about advocating for your kids, okay? And you can write us whatever you want. If we don't have a thick enough skin to handle it, then we shouldn't be here. But the larger thing I want people to do is I want you to coalesce around the new people who are going to be here in January. I want you to keep working with us through the rest of the year. But next year, you're going to have a new board. Please be kind to them. Be respectful. Understand it's not their fault we're dealing with the global pandemic. Understand that this is way larger than any of us would have ever anticipated in any aspect of profession or education. Nothing I signed up for. And I was on this board during the Great Recession. That seemed large. And T remembers this. And please, just keep trucking on, because this is larger than anybody could ever be trained for or prepared for. And be good to this board and be good to the staff, the people who are trying to do their best during this time, and be good to that board next year, because they're going to need your encouragement and they'll need your ideas. And our system will get through this. I know it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Herrera? Mr. Herrera, are you there? Do you have any questions?
Yes. Sorry about that. Yeah, I kind of have to echo off of Aaron. Is one of my biggest pet peeves is the staff. And that really is my draw point right there. When I see staff getting berated or publicly or on video or in a meeting or wherever, that's where I draw the line. So when I see that, I basically advocate for our staff, because they're the ones in like doing what they can with what they've got. And I get it. Your kids, I mean, my kids are in school too. I have 3 kids in the school system right now. So I'm a parent and my kids are doing the same thing. But when somebody gets on the email or on, public chatter or on video and starts berating the staff, that's where I draw the line. So, my response to that, I used to respond to every single question and complaint, put out my phone number on, talk to these parents. And I found one common denominator. I found that had this parent contacted the teacher before they contacted the principal, before they contacted the administration, it would have been solved. It's like it's like the hierarchy of solving an issue. It's if you solve the issue at the local level, it's done. It's usually a misunderstanding or little Johnny, bumped into Susie or whatever, and and some of these parents that they still call me today. I had another parent message me the other day about something. It was a television, something at Lookout Mountain, and I said, "Where are you going to be there?" And she said, "Well, no." And I said, "Well, why not?" Well, if be part of the solution and help our teachers, help our staff, and for anybody from the custodian all the way to the superintendent, that's my parameters of who I advocate for and who I'm going to stand up for. So whenever I see somebody talking down on them, you can bet that I'm going to call these out. I mean, you can't believe some of the conversations I have on Twitter, on nextdoor.com. I challenge these people. I challenge them like, well, what do you mean they're not spending their money right? Well, which part? Well, what part of it? What part of Title I? Which one? Which Title V, Title VI, Title VIII? Which one is it? So, when you get to that point, our parents, they're part of the Six Sigma solution. So to that, we have to work together. We don't work for you, we work with you, and our staff is the folks that are in this together. And we're here to advocate for them, for the students. And I think that to echo Aaron's thing is be nice to the staff, because they're the ones that are trying to do what they can with what they've got. And some of the parents I know at Ocotillo, they're very concerned, and I'm with you there. That's we're I know that the county's doing what they can to get these cases under control, but just be nice at the end of the day, because karma has a way of coming back around, and just funny way it works. It always comes back, and just the truth comes out, and justice does prevail at the end. So thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. I didn't really have any questions, Dr. Stanton and the leadership team. I think that you have done a good job at looking at everything. It has been a very tough decision from all of you, and I've known that this has been many long, heartfelt discussions on how do we protect our students, their families, protect our staff and their families. And in having a discussion with folks, I do remind them that we may not have a lot of cases in the school, but the school becomes another venue where the disease can spread. So if they, in looking at, and what I appreciate you is watching all the zip codes within our community. If we end up having an outbreak at a school of 10 people at a school having it, it's too late. It's now spread too far. The exposure is there. So I know we are erring on the side of caution and making decisions based on science and using our metrics, and we haven't varied from that. You've been very consistent in making sure that we follow that and that we're watching that. I've heard reports that the team is looking very hard at making sure that we can provide good quality of instruction that we can virtually. It's true, not everybody does well virtually, but you are having the social workers being able to work with our families. We're making sure that they're fed and they're safe as much as possible. And once we get on the other side of this, and we will get on the other side of this, we're going to be able to amp up, catch all our kiddos up, make sure everybody is safe and thriving and get back to school as normal. But I do appreciate with the great heart that you've approached this and look at this. And somebody sent me something today that reminded me something of tonight. And it's a quote from Henry Ford. It says, "Coming together is a beginning. Working together is success." And that's what's going to make this day be successful, is that we keep taking on the challenges, we work together, and we do it. It's easy to sit back and be an armchair, a quarterback, armchair quarterback, as you can tell, I don't follow sports, and make judgment calls when you don't have all the facts in front of you. But you, Dr. Stanton, and your leadership team do have all the facts. And we hired a great team, and I trust in what you're doing and how you're making your decisions. And I appreciate all the great work that you have done. So saying that, thank you. Ms. Whaley, did you need to ask any more questions?
Please, Ms. Lambert. I have one request. So, and it's probably going to be Ms. Mora that will be answering this, but one of the biggest things that was clear to me in the concerns of family members, is our kids' mental health. None of our kids, those of us that have kids that are currently in the system, we all can see that they're not as engaged or as happy as maybe they would have been if we're in person. And one of the biggest things that I notice for the folks that are, really struggling are those that are afraid of for their children that have either special needs or gifted needs, and a lot of concern around our children's mental health. And Dr. Stanton talks about the Maslow's hierarchy needs, and mental health is on there, but the first and foremost is that physical safety. And unfortunately, our governor has put us in a position that schools are now making these decisions, and we are doing everything that we can. And I think that the families have appreciated everything that we're doing at WSD to keep class sizes small, to keep masks and other PPE. We are doing everything that we can, and we're still seeing our numbers rise. And that's because when they leave our campus, it's everywhere else is not being told to shut down, is not being required to do the things that we are required to do as schools. And it's not fair for us to bear the brunt of the community, obligation for protecting our kids. And so we're now in this unfortunate situation where we, that our primary thought should be education, now have to say, shoot, well, how do we keep people safe? And I don't know about my fellow board members, but I don't want anybody getting sick and dying on my watch. That's not a call I should have to make in this position, but that's where the governor has left us. So I'm hoping, long-winded intro, to see if Lori can maybe share some things, reiterate some things that we're doing to kind of deal with those questions of our special ed kids, our gifted kids, you know, when we go back to virtual, how that will look. And then also the social emotional needs, not just for the kids that are on our social workers radar, but for just our tier 1, every student, you know, needing that social interaction. She could talk a little bit about what the district's doing. I think that that would be helpful.
Lori?
Thank you, President Lambert, Ms. Whaley. Yes, obviously we are extremely concerned about keeping those interactions with our students and helping them to process through all of this. This has been very challenging for us adults to understand. We can only imagine what it's like for our children to also come through that. And so we have been really working during this time of, you know, having students in person as well as online to keep those interactions with our students, you know, and the relationships going and building. I will say our special services team, you know, we would like to thank our special educators because they have really been working closely with the general education teachers to make sure that they're still keeping those interactions. Many of them are doing a combination of both in-person and hybrid learning, just to make sure that they are able to continue to interact with those students. And so as we move back into a virtual world, that commitment is still there to make sure that they're staying on top of the IEP meetings, interacting with families, making sure that communication stays in place. Also with the social emotional, Dorothy Watkins, as you know, I've been asking her to kind of put some data together, and you know, we look forward to sharing that further. But there has been small group interactions going on our campuses with students, really addressing feelings and how we're processing through this. They've been doing individual work with students. They've been doing outreach to families, sharing resources, following up on any calls or concerns about students that may be in need of some additional support. Proactively, many of our campuses have started looking at ways to offer activities virtually, and they will continue to do so. You know, we've heard from many of our administrators that they're looking forward to really trying to offer some more clubs. We do have a couple that are doing activities currently that are both for in-person students and virtual, and as we transition back, they will go to the virtual piece. We do want to keep our students engaged. We know those social interactions are important, and so many of our campuses are coming up with really creative ways to do that, and looking at lots of interests, health and wellness, you know, even trying to work through some of our athletics, things like that, that we just aren't able to offer right now. So we'll continue to work on providing those as we move forward.
Thank you. And I know that I've received the emails, you know, giving us the updates from Dr. Stanton, and usually in there's the phone numbers for all the different departments. So I hope that parents that are concerned or begin to get concerned as we go back into virtual, I hope they'll use those numbers, because from what I've heard from the folks that have called in, they've really been able to get their needs met. So if anybody hasn't called in yet that is still concerned, I hope that they will avail themselves, because I know our team is working really hard to not let anybody fall through the crack. The other question or kind of thing I'm hoping that we can talk a little bit about is, where did it go? I just lost my train of thought. I lost it. It was something. Oh, I know what it was. In the letter that went out, there was discussion about, you know, people are trying to figure out how long is this going to be for? You know, how long are we going to go back to virtual? From everything that I've seen, it looks like the numbers are most likely continue to climb. I think you mentioned that too through the holiday season. And then in the letter, I know that we were talking about, you know, through winter break. So Dr. Stanton, can you just give us what's the expectation? I mean, of course, if there's a miracle and this thing disappears, that's one thing, but what are we looking at so that we can begin to give our community, our teachers, our staff, our parents some kind of idea of what's going to look like for a significant amount of time, so they're not worried about, you know, chasing it week to week.
Mrs. Whaley, members of the board, members of the audience, what Mrs. Whaley is referring to the communication that went home tonight. So because Maricopa County, we do consult with them, has said that they do believe there'll be an increase in cases and positivity through Thanksgiving and through what we call winter break. I wrote in the letter that we anticipate, because of that we're going to be online through the winter break and the beginning of second semester. Obviously, as you mentioned, Ms. Whaley, miracle could happen, I suppose. But what they're talking about is that this is going to go on for a period of time. So that's why I wanted to set the expectation for families to really believe that we're going to be starting in the new year at that point online. I can't give you a prediction date. We really want to look at the metrics. December was it 8th, 17th, whatever those Thursdays are, to look at. But the real part that's going to be difficult for us is if people don't follow the mask mandates, if they don't wash their hands, if they get into large congregations and the spread continues, then that bump, if that's the right word choice, won't be seen until the middle of January, because the winter break includes, not only various holidays, but including New Year's Eve. And so that would be the day that, again, that if people don't fall through it, that we could be looking at the impact on that 2 weeks later and showing up in our data, and that would be mid-January.
Right,
So,
because this number is 2 weeks from Halloween. This huge spike that we're seeing right now are the numbers from 2 weeks ago, which would have been Halloween. So,
yep.
So it sounds like at least through this semester, we're going to be on virtual.
That is the belief we have. Yes.
And I think that's good for our families to know. I know it's difficult, but I think it's good to know that things are not going to be flipping back and forth right now. That's the path that we're on. And that we have the resources out there that people are available. So if there's questions, to reach out. Okay.
And that would also help with the continuity of teaching too. Just to, if I could, Ms. Whaley, by us holding with the same teachers mentioned, even whether it's hybrid or online, or of course the kids that have been online, we'll have some continuity with that educator, and that'll be helpful just to stay in contact with a kid. It's tough when you have a substitute teacher. It's tough than if you're changing it around. So we're trying our best to hold that for second quarter, and that would line up directly with towards winter break.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Stanton, and thank you to the entire staff for everything that they've been doing to manage. I appreciate it.
Any other board members have questions? I think we're.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Adams. I'm sorry, I just saw your chat.
Thank you, Dr. Stanton. Silly question. Should these numbers reverse, God willing, takes us 2 weeks to react, correct? In theory.
That is what we said originally, Mr. Adams. So in theory, yes.
So maybe as a community, we can help mitigate this and get it down and get everybody back into class. So thank you. Just a statement. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. I had a question, and Ms. Morrow, you're probably the best one to help me understand. Has there been any decision made about the state assessment and how we are going to be able to, or you may have not even had time to discuss it, to be able to do AZ merit in a virtual world if that's where we end up in March? I don't know. I know that they had a board meeting to discuss it with the Arizona State Board. I wasn't sure I heard what the outcome was.
Yes, President Lambert, I was able to listen in on that meeting, and I think just like everything else, everything is just, we're kind of moving along and trying to get some answers. At this point, we are expected to be giving a state assessment, and so what that looks like is part of the conversation. There is definitely discussion as to how that could be administered online and what that would look like. They're also really taking a look at the accountability piece and moving forward, how that will play into it. But at this point in time, we are anticipating that we will be giving some sort of state assessment, just not quite sure what that platform will look like just yet.
And if I could, Ms. Lambert, and Ms. Moore, I believe, and again, the state board just had a discussion, if I understand it correctly, but the idea is that if we gave that, it would, at least from the state board's discussion, may not have impact on various items like labels and things like that. That's the discussion, at least, right?
Yeah, that's the proposal on the table. And so next board
meeting, we could use the assessment for what it's supposed to be, as being able to have a measuring tool to see how well our children are learning. Yeah. That would be nice.
Would be.
Sorry, little side comment. Board members, does anybody else need a last chance to be able to say something?
Well, Mrs. Lambert, it's just, I want to commend everybody for the reports. And I know that I know we're going to do just fine, but it's just painful. And we're just dealing with pain in this country, nationally. I don't have to talk in a litany about political things. The country's pained. And we don't trust each other anymore. We have to get to a place where we find a way to trust each other and have respect for each other and have respect for disagreements. And when we get there, and I think we will, I believe in this country and I believe we will, but that's a national scene. But I think it does dive into some of the emails we get of distrust and anger. Good people who are distrustworthy and angry. And so I think we need to acknowledge those people. I didn't get every email, Mrs. Lambert. I tried, but nobody said anything that I didn't feel came from their heart. I'll go that far. I can't think of anybody I saw an email who didn't say what they really felt. That's a good start in a conversation. When you say what you feel, then people can evolve. And that's what I want this next year. I want people to be able to start talking about what they and to do it more civilly. The people we had were civil, but not every place that's occurring. We're lucky in Washington. I think there's respect for us and a level of civility that might not be happening in other districts. So that's my hope.
Okay.
Ms. Lambert,
Thank you very much, Dr. Stanton. I thank you so much for the report.
Ms. Lambert, real quick.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Adams. Go ahead.
And I apologize. Just real quick, as my dogs start barking, right? Zoom. In fact, Aaron, I really appreciate what you just said. I just want to take 1 second. Obviously, I'm consistently saying thank you to our administration and our staff and for what they all do. But I want to take 1 second to sort of piggyback what Aaron just said. The emails are healthy, good, bad, or ugly. The fact that we're communicating means so much. And Ms. Lambert, I thought you've done a fantastic job at responding on our behalf. And Dr. Stanton, I think you've done a fine job also. And also, Ms. Moore and Dr. Bailey, great job, and everybody that responds. But the communication piece, which has been more than we've ever experienced, at least for me, in all these years of being on the board, I've never seen so many emails. I truly appreciate the respect and the civility and the kindness of coming up with ideas, not just, hey, I got a situation, but offering solutions that we can pass on to administration. So I just want to say thank you to the community for those emails. I truly appreciate them, good, bad, or ugly. It's communication, and that's healthy. Aaron, your statements were heartfelt, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. We will go ahead and move on to our last item on the agenda, which is future requests for future reports or agenda items. Is there any board members that want to place anything? And we only have one more meeting for the end of the year. And then in January, you'll have a whole new board and can start new conversations.
I do, Ms. Lambert.
Yes, Mr. Herrera.
Can we get an update on the bond projects, specifically the ones being built right now, where they're at? I know that there was a progress report sent out, and I don't know if Mike shared that with anybody, but I wanted to see if we can get a agenda report, because there's some development going on, especially in the 28th and Peoria for the Metro Center for the rebirth of the general plan. There's going to be a lot of development there going on. So it's going to impact some of those schools, specifically Washington, Lakeview, Choya, and I think the schools to the east of 17, Sunny Slope area as well. So can we get an update on that as well, please?
Thank you. Anything else? Anyone else? All right. Well, then I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Nobody?
Well, we're going to miss you so much. We didn't want to let. As a matter of fact, we did, like
Motion
I said
to adjourn, Ms. Lambert. Mr. Adams.
Know you're going to hold that gavel.
Point of order.
I think Bill got muted, but by an unlikely person.
All
Point
right,
of order.
don't fall apart at the end of the meeting.
I want to
I'll
see the
take
cat,
Mr.
Aaron. Aaron, I got to see
I'll
the
take
cat.
Mr. Herrera's motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Whaley.
Thank you,
Before we
everybody.
leave,
Thank-
before we leave and call for adjournment, I want to wish everybody a safe, healthy, and happy Thanksgiving. Take care of your family, love each other. And I will now call for the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
The meeting is adjourned at 8:15. Thank you very much, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, you
Happy
too.
Thanksgiving.
Take care, everybody.